And it hasn't worked for me again. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. My name's Richie, and this is the AM Language YouTube channel. And for the second time this week, I can't write in the live chat section on here because it's not going to let me. So I'm going to have to do, well, everything on here, on my phone, which is not really what I wanted to do at all. So let me just turn my volume off. So I'm going to have my phone over here. Therefore, if I see people write, I can see. But it is a little bit annoying at the moment. I don't know why YouTube does this. It doesn't let me always, the live chat doesn't always come up. Anyway, welcome to today's lesson. Today is Film English, and we're going to look at imperative forms. I'm sorry that I'm a little bit late. I had some technical difficulties, which I have now fixed. Irina F, hello, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you are well. Yes, Film English imperatives. Which means we are going to look at some Arnold Schwarzenegger language, because Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, uses a lot of imperatives. So let me know if you like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and if you do, let me know what your favorite films of Arnold Schwarzenegger are. Famous lines. Let's make sure we get in that sort of thing. In fact, I think most of his lines happen to be imperatives as well. If you're not too sure, though, first of all, about what an imperative is a command. You're commanding someone to do something. But I'll wait for more people to join the lesson before I go into a little bit of the grammar side of things. But in a lot of action movies, you will find imperative language. Let's see other films that we could potentially look at. I'm trying to think of a particular character. Usually always film language, not film language, sorry, war films, actually. But there's one particular one that I'm thinking of. It might come to me. Okay. So yeah, we'll wait for more people to join. Now, like I said, we will have a look at imperatives today, but I'll wait for more people to join, and then I will go in and explain what we need to know about imperative forms. Anyway, on a different note, while we're waiting, Malta. At the moment, I would say that at the moment, if you are thinking of coming to Malta, Malta is a good destination for the summer. If you're not in Malta at the moment, Malta is going to be on a lot of green lists. They have done an incredible job at getting a lot of people vaccinated. From June, they're going to open up. Sort of things will begin to return to some form of normality. The airport's going to open as well, a little, whereby it's going to be a bit more flexible. The point is, though, now I rang today because I wanted to check this out for myself. If you arrive in Malta from either a green or amber zone, so that's a yellow zone like Ireland, for example, then if you arrive with a negative PCR test, you don't have to quarantine. You don't have to quarantine for 14 days. If you arrive with a negative PCR test, you will have to quarantine for 14 days. And if you arrive from a country that is on the red list, I think you are going to have to quarantine anyway. So there's a lot of it's opening up in that sense. So it's if people were to come, they can have a holiday. Now I do know that we're going to have quite a AM language will be quite busy this summer. Well, busier than in terms of people are going to come, which is exciting. It means that we will, even though there'll be restrictions, hopefully we'll have some kind of normality. And I think this is a big thing, trying to have some kind of normality about your learning experience. And one last thing, what I would say is this: in the next few weeks, I know they're going to start giving vaccines to people who are 18 or under, as well, around 18. So there's a lot of encouragement. So Malta at the moment is actually going to be one of the safest places to be. Now, we were in this situation. Alida, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. I'm just going to turn the other light on because, no, that's not the one I want. That's the one I want. Evelina, good afternoon. Welcome to today's lesson. Thank you so much for joining. So, yes, I wanted to tell you guys some positive news about Malta and why Malta is, in fact, going to be a good place to travel. And to learn English is a great reason as well. So let's get into today's lesson. We are looking at imperatives. And what do we need to know about imperative forms? Well, the first thing we need to know is that an imperative bit of language is a command. It's going to tell you to do something. This would be, for example, for instance, okay, imperative. Right, I'm going to have to type everything, unfortunately, on my phone. Okay, imperative. Okay, in a sentence is to command. Such as, for example, we would say, sit down and eat your lunch. So this is very much what you would hear at school, for example. Sit down and eat your lunch. Now, the word itself, when you define the word imperative, you should note that it can either be an adjective or it can be a noun. So it can have two very distinct meanings in that sense. But there's always an element of urgency or importance about it. So if you use it as an adjective, then you're saying that this is really important. Okay. It can also mean that it's something commanding as well. Now, similarly, a noun, the imperative means something of the utmost importance. Something imperative, therefore, is a command. So we can use it as a noun, we can use it as an adjective, but ultimately it is to command, and you are making a command when you do it. So we're not going to, now there's a phrase, a good phrase in English, okay, effectively. If you use an imperative, okay, when you use the imperative, you are not beating around the bush, okay? Now, what does this, oh, come on, don't do this to me. I'm on my phone, so it sometimes wants to change some things. Okay, so what does this mean? A. Okay, so A. You're not beating around the bush. This means you are being blunt, meaning very direct, or B, you are trying to be very polite. So this is beating around the bush. What does beat around the bush mean in this sentence? Uh, Alida says A, meaning blunt. If you agree with Alida, let me know. Where's my water? Okay. So if you agree with yes, Arena F also agrees. And yes, the answer is A. Answer A. Okay, so what can we say? Okay, so now that we've looked at that, let's look at some examples. You've got sit down, you've got get up, listen, for example. Those would be imperative forms. So, with that being said, let's have a little look at some imperative forms. So the first one, I would say, I'm just going to now, like I said, Arnold Schwarzenegger is very, very good. So, for example, you've got most famous one in so many films, Okay, you've got. Come on, don't be silly. So you've got this. Get down. Listen to me. Get down. That is Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you have not, I've just seen another one. It's really funny, some of his lines. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so Arnold Schwarzenegger, not necessarily everybody's favorite actor. I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger and I love his movies. If you haven't watched Arnold Schwarzenegger in English, it's very funny because his English, his accent is it makes the his accent makes his lines funnier. So, for example, you've got Get Down. He in so many films he says Get down, or for example, in Predator. I'm not sure if you've seen Predator, but in Predator he says Get to the chopper. Get to the chopper. It really is quite funny, actually. Get to the chopper. Now, the chopper is another word, an American English term, actually, for helicopter. Alida says Terminator was very good, even though I'm not fond of fantasy. Yeah, the first test of Terminator first two ones were really good. The famous line, I'll be back. That is actually that does fit an element of an imperative. In Total Recall, if you have not seen Total Recall, I do recommend watching Total Recall. It is one of the best storylines that has ever been written. Total Recall is the idea whereby someone wants to go on holiday, but they can't physically go on holiday. So they go to a place to go on holiday in their mind. And Arnold Schwarzenegger goes on holiday in his mind to Mars. The danger with Total Recall is that people might not always. I think it's a little bit like Inception here. The person might not know if it's real or if it's a dream. And in Total Recall, you end up seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger having a bad experience, and he starts to think that he is a secret agent and that he needs to get to Mars to stop some people, some bad people. And you've got funny lines like he kills his wife basically, who tries to kill him. And when he kills his wife, he says, "Consider that a divorce." Well, let him go. It is very funny. Um, Stick around. Come with me if you want to live. So you can use that's so funny. Come with me if you want to live. That's Terminator, Judgment 2. That's actually a conditional. Come with me if you want to live. So it's an imperative form, but as a conditional. Um, so it is very funny. Let me know what your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film is. I'm John Carter. So funny. I do like that. I have to say, I really do like my old movies at the moment. The work when you like old things, slightly older things, you can say I harper back, for example. So I harper. I just want to make sure I get this right. I harper back to old movies. I was talking to a friend of mine with whom I grew up with, and I was talking to him about this, and he agrees. He agrees with me on this, in the sense of, yeah, as you grow older, you do sometimes begin to sort of go back to what you grew up with, and you miss certain things. Right, just want to make sure I get this correct, because it's a particular thing in English, but I just want to make sure I get it right. Yeah. Okay, good. Yes, I have got it right. The spelling. I don't want it because my phone keeps on wanting to change everything. Oh, come on, harper back. There we go. Harper back to old movies from my youth. So I harper back to old movies from my youth. Now, harper, like I said here, to harper back. Okay, so to harper back, meaning to think about. Um, that's one. That's one way of looking at it, but it's also in your action. So if you harper back to old movies, it means you think about old movies and you want to watch old movies. Same with music. Same with it could be many things. Memories to harper back. So let me know if you like to harper back to things from your childhood. But I would say that films like, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think for me he reminds me of certain movies. You've then got other actors as well. You've got Sylvester Stallone. Um, Sylvester Stallone is for me is a classic. But let me know what you guys like to harper back to, actually, on this one, and have a go at using harper back. Um, but like I said, his language is full of imperatives. Get down. Um, Actually, yeah, get down. Um, Sit down. Put that cookie down now. That's another famous one. So yeah, I mean, it's that's what we use. I mean, imperatives are very good when something is serious, I should say. It's very important that we use it correctly. We use the imperative when we really need to. Like there's of it's something of great importance. We need to say it. We need to say it now, which is why you see it a lot in action movies. Um, Again, for instance, another one you could say, for instance, a film. Let me know if you like this film in the live chat section. Gladiator. Um, Commands in Gladiator like stay together, as one. Again, those are imperative forms when he's shouting orders. In fact, you can use the word bark, actually, to bark orders. Okay. Now, if you bark orders, this means to shout your orders. Now, this isn't necessarily polite. This is what you would expect, though, in the military. You'd expect people to bark orders almost, instead of like, get down, stay together, call, whatever it might be. You would use it actually in an emergency, like call 99, not 999, or call 911, for example. If you're in the US, in the UK, call 999. I've forgotten what it is in Malta. I think it's 112. I think. Um, but yeah, sometimes, and then sometimes, if bark orders to bark orders, and if you bark orders, it's going to be an imperative, is not necessarily appropriate in the office, or you don't want to bark orders. It's generally not considered to be very polite. Imagine if you're working with someone who was constantly, barking orders at you, such as like, give me your pen, give me this, do that, tell John, tell Sue, tell this. That's barking orders. We don't really want to do this unless if it's important. It's a serious situation. So when it comes to accidents, when it comes to a threat, or something serious, you need to bark orders. If you go along to if you do a first aid course, you would have to use imperatives, and you might have to bark orders at someone because it's very serious. Alida says, I harper back to old music when I was a teenager. You know what? I've always done that, and I still do that. I harper back to Pink. Well, I grew up. I mean, I think before the age of 14, 15, I didn't really know anything about music. I had terrible music taste, and that was about it. When I was 15, I was introduced to Jimi Hendrix and AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, The Who, Rolling Stones, Carlos Santana, and many other sort of really good musicians. The Doors, for example, 60s and 70s music, and then also like the 80s with what are they called? Dire Straits, Guns N' Roses, Queen, and U2, for example, and that slowly changed my music taste, and I still listen to that music. In fact, it's strange to think Coldplay, a band like Coldplay, are now old. I mean, they've been around for years, and I sometimes harper back to when they came out with X and Y album, because I thought that was their third album. It was really good. You had songs like Speed of Sound, Fix You, really good songs. A couple of years later, they came out with their fourth album, with the song Viva la Vida. Really good. So yeah, I mean, I think as I've grown older, I tend to harper back a little bit more. Evelina says Braveheart. Braveheart, of course. Actually, let's just look at some Braveheart lines, because you will find some, you will find imperatives actually in that one. Braveheart lines. Obviously, the most famous one. They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. Yeah, that is not going to be an imperative. But it's good nonetheless. I should say, by the way, guys, if you want to do a Scottish accent, how would I describe doing a Scottish accent? You have to try and not breathe. So yeah, you pretend like you're not going to breathe, and you end up and then you want, in fact, when you speak, you want to speak from your throat. You want to speak down here. And yeah, that's pretty much that's how you get a Scottish accent. Oh no. It does depend what type of Scottish accent. I'm not really trying very hard at the moment to do my Scottish accent. Let's see. Let's go with. Let's see. Da-da-da. He does give a big speech, for example. It's got many lines. Actually, let me know what you think of Mel Gibson as an actor. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson. I mean, I remember watching him in Lethal Weapon, for example, and I thought to myself, you know what, this is quite entertaining. The acting isn't great. But then you see lots of other things and you think, actually, you know what? He's a pretty good actor. And then you end up well, as an Englishman, I can't help but notice the amount of films he's been in where the English are the bad guys. Um, okay, I can automatically think of two, being Braveheart and the Patriot. I should say there's a difference between American English and British English over the pronunciation of Patriot. In American English, it is patriot. I am a patriot. In fact, you'll hear many CIA movies or Born Identity films where the person tries to justify their actions by saying, "I'm a patriot. I'm an American patriot," meaning you're very loyal to your country. But in English, in UK English pronunciation, we don't say patriot, we say patriot. And not many English people know that. So, yeah, let's see. That's quite funny. I'm just looking at some lines in Braveheart. This is a very English line, actually. The trouble with Scotland is that it's full of Scots. That's a very English sense of humor. We would say that about a lot of other we would say that actually about the French being English. We would say the problem with France is that it's full of French people. It's kind of funny because these days that kind of humor is probably going to be seen as offensive. But in terms of a tradition of humor in England, it's kind of funny because much of English humor is that kind of, we like to make fun of other people in that way, including ourselves within the UK. I mean, the Scots would say the problem with England is that it's full of it's full of English people. So it depends on the context, and there is a lot of historical context to a lot of jokes, especially between England and the Scots, England and the Irish, England and the French, the Germans. It goes on and on, but it's quite funny. So William Wallace is telling someone, and he tells them, I mean, this is an order, when he says, "Go back to England," for instance. Tell them they're that Scottish daughters and sons are yours no more. So tell them Scotland is free. So the very beginning bit actually starts off as an imperative because it says, "Go back to England." Actually, this is another one where William Wallace says, give me the strength to die well." Give me the strength to die well. King Edward orders, this is definitely a full-on imperative. It's an order. "Bring me Wallace, alive if possible, dead just as good." Evelina says, "I like bagpipe music. Have you ever lived in Edinburgh or been to Scotland?" I would say this. The bagpipes, when played well, on certain occasions can be brilliant. But if a bagpipe is played badly, it sounds like a fire alarm. It really does. So if you're going to listen to bagpipes, I really hope that they are played well. If not, it sounds like a fire alarm. Now, a very good example of this is, and I'm sure most of you have probably watched Friends, is Ross. There's an episode I think Ross wants to play the bagpipes for Chandler and Monica's wedding. And he starts trying to play the bagpipes, and it sounds like a fire alarm. So I would say that's always the danger with bagpipes, in the sense that if they are played badly, it sounds awful. Um, it's not like other instruments, like maybe like the guitar or the harp, whereby even if you play it badly, you can just it's easier to make it sound nice by keeping it very simple. Now, an instrument that you blow into is called a wind instrument. So trumpet, saxophone, which is probably the sexiest instrument ever, bagpipes, they are called wind instruments. So if it's an instrument that you have to blow into, it's a wind instrument. And I think they are really difficult instruments to play, because it's easy to make it sound bad. NNKK, thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel. As said, they've said, I've never heard bagpipes. I've never heard bagpipes in. I've never heard bagpipes in tune. So you don't need the article. You can just, and you don't need an apostrophe s. You can just apostrophe s. You can just say, I've never heard bagpipes in tune before. Or if you want to keep the article, you could say, I've never heard a bagpipe, singular. I've never heard a bagpipe in tune before. It's important to have in tune, because that means it sounds well. It sounds correct. Now, the other thing I would say is, and I'm just going to focus a little bit here on American movies. Okay. American movies. I'm sure you're all familiar with American movies, and in particular, war movies. In American movies, they love their imperatives, but they also love the excitement that goes along with it. In terms of this, there's sometimes when you watch an American movie and you think to yourself, it's a good action movie, but that is very American. There's something about it where you think, only the American Hollywood culture would make a film, and an action film, like that. Now, a few films come to mind. The first one that comes to mind is Platoon, okay, or Platoon, actually. Platoon films. Platoon. Now, if you haven't watched Platoon, it's quite an old film now, but it's from 1986, so a year before I was born. But it's with Charlie Sheen, you might recall. Oh gosh, what's happened here? Okay, I'm just going to continue going. Okay, there we go. My internet froze. Yeah, it's with Charlie Sheen. Let me know if you like the actor Charlie Sheen. He's certainly, if you want to say interesting, there's a few ways to say someone is interesting. Okay, come on over here. So one way is he's an interesting person. That doesn't necessarily mean it's positive. And I should tell you a language element here. In Germany, if you say interesting, it's usually going to be a negative. In English, it can be positive as well. You can also say he's a colorful character. That's another nice way of saying, he's not. He's certainly not a conservative person. Not in terms of his politics, but in terms of his behavior. So that's some polite language that's also quite good as well. So yes, you could say he's an interesting person, but you can also say he's a colorful character. That can actually mean quite a lot. If you say someone's a colorful character, it means that maybe they're a bit eccentric, a bit mad. Well, I don't want to use the word mad, but they have a wild lifestyle. Let's put it that way. It's very much out there. If you go back 10 years ago, you could probably remember the famous sort of videos with Charlie Sheen shouting, sort of, "I'm winning." Um, let's see. Can I find a very good example of an imperative? Yes, this is a classic sort of imperative. Where at one point a guy's being shot, he's like, "Ah!" And someone that sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger again, "Ah, no!" No. That just reminds me of Platoon again, where he's covered himself in mud, and he's shouting at at this alien, saying, "Kill me, kill me! I'm over here, kill me!" Yeah. But here, the guy saying, shut up, and take the pain." Sergeant Barnes. I do need to watch this film again. But that would be an imperative. NNKKK says, "I know he played in the movie Arrival." I haven't seen The Arrival, actually, to be honest. Um, so, and then, of course, you've got other ones like Saving Private Ryan, a very, very famous film. Um, and, well, you can just go on and on talking about American movies. But that's what the imperative is, guys. And that's why action movies are very good for imperatives. It's, you're giving an order, a command, and that's what it is. If you're going to use an imperative, you need to pick your moments. If you're in a polite environment, a relaxed social environment, or in the workspace, I wouldn't use it. If you're in a serious situation, then use it. So if you are, if there's an accident, you use the imperative. Call an ambulance, for example. Get help. If there's a fire and you want to tell people to get out, you just say, get out, sort of thing. So there's a time and a place to use imperatives with that. Or, for instance, training as well. If you're in the gym, I do know some people in the gym like to use a lot of imperatives. They'll. I mean, I think but I think when it comes to anything to do with sport or exercise, I think the imperative language is also going to be there. So you would hear it a lot in sport. If you're on the pitch, you're playing football, someone say, "Stand there, mark him," for instance. Or in some cases, your coach might say, "Wake up, wake up." Evelina says, "It's more polite to say shut up or be quiet." Actually, neither are polite. If you say shut up, that's very rude. It's it's ruder than be quiet. If you want to be polite, you could say things like, and it depends on the context. Please, if you use please, it makes a difference. So please be quiet. For instance, you can say, "Can you stop? Can you stop talking? Can you stop talking?" If you add please, it's always nice, actually. "Can you stop talking, please?" That's another one. This one's a good one. I'd appreciate silence. I'd appreciate silence at the moment. That's another one. That's very formal, though. That would be, this would be like if you're doing like in an exam or something, or you're studying, for example. This is very formal. I'm just going to put that in. Okay. You don't. If you're going to be polite, you don't want to use the imperative necessarily. You want, like I said, you've got to use it in certain situations. So as we're talking about film English, I'm going to recommend a film well, I'm going to talk about a film that I watched this week. Two films actually that I watched this week. So I'm just going to give you my quick film review. The first film I'm going to talk about is No Country for Old Men. This is a very sort of like, this is a psychological thriller. And it's about a cat and mouse game. A cat and mouse game is a chase. So someone, it's in Texas, I think. Someone finds some drug money. He takes that drug money, and then the person who wants that money starts to go after him. And it's a cat and mouse game where he's always running, hiding, and then the main bad guy keeps on finding him. I would say that the acting is very good. The directing is, in some places, some very good scenes. In other places, nah, not so much. Overall, though, I would give it a 7 out of 10. The other film I watched this week was a Mission Impossible film, which was, I think, Mission Impossible Rebel, I think, maybe. It was one of the last ones, I think. Effectively, it's Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. I would say this: Tom Cruise is very much your action movie star. But the thing about Tom Cruise is that it doesn't matter what film he's in, he is Tom Cruise playing the exact same character. In his early days, I think there were some films that he was in where he was actually really good, like A Few Good Men. He was really good in that. But most of his movies, it's just the same act. It's just the same character. Anyway, so guys, that brings me to the end of today's lesson. Thank you so much for watching. A big thank you to everybody who has participated in today's lesson. Evelina, NNNKKK, Alida, Irina F. Thank you so much for participating in today's live lesson. Make sure, guys, that you subscribe to the channel. And I know that I didn't upload a short video this week. I'll be uploading one next week. Irina F's, thanks, Richard. Have a relaxing weekend. You too. Have a relaxing weekend. Have a good weekend. And I will see you next week. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend. And I will see you Monday at 4:30. Have a great weekend, says Evelina. You too, Evelina. And you too, Alida. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Bye for now. You too, NNNKKK. You too as well. Cheers, guys. Bye for now.